Hi, pal. Welcome to I've Got Your Back, the podcast. My name is Michelle Sutherland, and this is a place where I want to empower and inspire you to tap into the deepest desires of your heart and discover the magic within. Hello, everyone, and welcome to I've Got Your Back, the podcast. We are on season 1, and this season is all about B Corp. And so for the last few weeks, you've been hearing from lots of different B Corps from different industries. And for this week, in week 7, I am so excited to welcome on Sonja, who I actually met in Byron Bay when I lived there, so Bundjalung country. And I was living there for like the last 14 months before I moved back. And I just love this woman. I just think she is phenomenal. I love when she sent me her bio because the word opinionated came up and I was like, yes, I love that Sonja actually has an opinion on things and she's not afraid to use her voice. So I'm just going to share a little bit of an introduction before we say hi. So Sonja has a reputation for smashing the glass ceiling and running a company with a name you will never, ever forget, which is called Drunk Parrots. She's a marketing strategist by day, mother of 2 under 5 at night, and someone with an opinion, like I said, a big smile, which you'll get to see if you're watching on YouTube, and determination to use business as a force for good. She's got a master's degree in economics and a decade of agency experience. And Sonja's interests go beyond textbook marketing theory. She calls herself a storyteller because that's easier than listing strategist, journalist, marketer, entrepreneur, mentor, workshop trainer, keynote speaker, and opinionated mover and shaker. I love all those titles. So Sonja's passion for the environment and social impact actually led her and her business, Drunk Parrots, to B Corp, as well as becoming climate neutral certified and becoming a member of 1% for the planet. So we're going to dive into that today, which I'm really curious about to find out more. So Sonja, welcome to I've Got Your Back. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's so exciting to see you, and I know it's morning time in Byron, so I'm just thinking what it must be like there while I'm here in Scotland, like cold at midnight.
Well, it's we're heading into winter here, so it's relatively cold. I'm wearing actually a long sleeve shirt, which indicates it's below 20 degrees.
Just below 20.
Winter, fireplace might go on next door.
Yeah. Fireplace is on. That's Byron winter for you. Yeah. So listen, Sonja, I know that when we met, we had a lot of really great conversations about B Corp and the movement and even your journey with your business to become B Corp certified. So I would firstly, let's talk about you. So I've obviously done a great introduction, but like, why do you do what you do? Why did you start Drunk Parrots? Tell us more about that.
Sure. So I'm originally from Germany, where I studied. And when I finished studying, I wanted to do a PhD in climate change in a faraway university in Suva, Fiji. And I chose Fiji because it's always sunny and you can surf, 2 things that I missed in Germany. Yeah. So I went on a journey to Fiji, and it led me through Australia, where I only intended to be for a couple of months, but I really, really liked it. And I thought, okay, how can I stay? 10 years forward, I'm still here. I never started a PhD, and I don't think I will ever go back into academia. Yeah. But I started giving social media courses and social media training. This is like 12 years ago, when people didn't even know what to do with Twitter and whatnot. And those courses filled up rapidly. There was a huge demand in the market, and I built a business very quickly. And then people wanted more than just social media. So they asked me for marketing strategy or web design, etc. So I partnered with a web designer at the time. We built an agency that scaled very quickly. And then I hired a girl in PR, and she said, "Oh, you should meet my brother. I think you might get along." Mm-hmm. And she was right. 3 months later, I was pregnant.
Oh my God. I love that. I love
And
that.
I was at this crossroads. So what am I going to do? Because I can't work, the crazy hours that you do in an agency.
Yeah.
And also the agency was heading into a direction that didn't really resonate with my core values. It was growing very quickly, had a high turnover in clients as well as in staff. And I just wanted to do things differently and maybe even slower. So I made the decision to wind up the company, dissolve the partnership, and move down to the Northern Rivers where my partner had a house. And I thought, oh, how beautiful. I will bring up my child in the Northern Rivers. It's very green here. I'm going to have a dog. And
I love it.
it was an absolute culture shock. Because if you've ever been to the Northern Rivers, you have to drive 30 minutes to everything. There's no coffee shop in my street. My road is 7 kilometers long, so there's no way I can even walk somewhere. Anyway, still love it because it's bloody green. And yes, I have a dog. And I started fresh. So by the time the company was dissolved and I was ready to start my new company, I was 8 months pregnant.
Wow.
And I had a couple of weeks to recruit staff and find clients and make this work. And I remember having contractions, being in the hospital and writing my last email to my client saying, and this is really the last email, I'm having a baby now. And I also remember the day after giving birth, I was back at work because it was a crazy time. I just started this company and it had to work, and it had to work in a certain way. I learned a lot of lessons from the company that I ran before. And the key takeaway was that this business needs to be built on strong ethical values. And this has to be a B Corp. And as you know, you can't be a B Corp from day one. You have to prove that you can do the do. So I set this new company up with the intention to become a B Corp. So we're now 5 years old. I had another baby. This is also a funny story, another baby story. We were all working from my property, where it's green and no coffee shop. And I was pregnant with baby number 2. And I thought, I think I should get my employees out of my house into their own office space. So I hired this office space in Ballina, downtown on the river with river view. It's beautiful here. And they moved out. And the very next day, I had little Heidi on the kitchen floor.
Wow.
So talking about efficiency here, yeah. And then the week after, we were in a national lockdown due to a global pandemic. So it was again crazy times, and there was no maternity leave. And over the past 5 years, we had like crisis after crisis. We had like bushfires here. We had, of course, the global pandemic, and we were hit by 2 floods.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that we built this business on these ethical pillars and became a B Corp, because it really helped us navigate crisis after crisis and came out the other way. Because it was our North Star. We knew why we are in business. We knew who we're serving and why we have to keep going and doing what we're doing.
Yeah. And so just to touch on that, so you obviously learned a lot of lessons from your previous company. When did you first hear about B Corp? Because you knew like you were setting up this business and it was going to become when was it like the first time you heard about B Corp, and what resonated with you about this movement and about this certification?
I can't pinpoint when I heard about B Corp. It must have, I really don't know when I learned about it. But, my brain works like this. I'm either utterly obsessed with something or not interested at all. So I got utterly obsessed with B Corp and spent actually, and I don't want to scare anyone who's on their B Corp journey or, considering becoming a B Corp in the future. But I spent 2 years of my life becoming a B Corp.
Yeah.
And when I say I spent 2 years of my life, I started measuring everything. I have a spreadsheet that I'm happy to share with your listeners, Michelle, called Measure Everything is called the title of my spreadsheet. And we measure everything from how many kilometers do our employees travel to work? How much business travel do we do? How do we do our business travel? Who are our suppliers? We interview our suppliers each year. We're selecting our suppliers based on principles that we've set. We measure electricity input and output. We measure, and this is interesting because we're going to talk about green tech potentially today too. We deliver digital services predominantly in our company. So we had to think about what is the impact of our work on the planet. And it's not only what the energy consumption in our office space that we should consider, it's also the energy consumption of every single website and email and social media post that we're putting out there. So I went a bit crazy, utterly obsessed, like I said, and started measuring everything, measuring every pro bono hour we're spending on grassroots organizations who, quite frankly, cannot afford us, volunteer hours of our staff. For example, in front of our office, I mentioned there's a river. The river is in a very bad shape, and we started cleaning the riverfront in front of our office and maybe 150 meters to each side once a week. And we started measuring how much rubbish we're actually removing from the river as a team. And I think last year, or this financial year, it is something like 80 kg that we pulled out. And the stuff we're pulling out of the river is just shocking.
I can't even imagine. It would be so random. I did a beach cleanup once in Manly before the diggers come, and the council comes and takes it away and makes it look very pretty every morning. But I did that once, and the amount of rubbish in 1 hour that was collected, I was like gobsmacked. I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah. So because we do it as a team activity, look, we're sitting all day on our computers. So going outside and doing something on the fresh air is really good for us, and moving around. So because we do it as a team activity, it's kind of a team bonding exercise. It's also fun when you find obscure things in the river or on the beach. We started to inspire other businesses around us. So there's a hotel where our office is nearby, and the hotel staff joined in.
Oh, wow.
And like from the hotel manager to the cleaners to reception staff. Or next door is a beauty salon. So the beauticians came out and brought their own gloves and bags, and we then started buying bags and gloves and just having them ready for people to join in. So it became kind of a little micro movement, and that's
and I
fun.
love that. And I love it because you said like your company from the beginning aligned with B Corp. You wanted those strong ethics and those strong values, and then you've got the B Corp certification, and like you said, measure, because if you think of the B Corp assessment, like I've shared in many other calls, it's measuring your impact. And I just love that you were like taking it to the next level, and you're like measuring everything. And when you measure everything and you go out there and you show, you're doing the do, you're going to inspire other people naturally. And I actually think that's why this movement is gaining such momentum, because I don't think there's anyone in the world that doesn't want to make a difference, that doesn't want to make a positive impact. But it's just maybe being inspired by someone, or knowing what to do, or just knowing, like you said, like a little micro movement can actually make a difference because you're all doing it together. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just curious to know, so obviously you started off, it took you about 2 years, you got obsessed with B Corp, which I love, because I've done the same for the last few years. I've just gone deep into B Corp land, and it's actually been pretty enlightening. I would just love to know, how did you find the process? Obviously, as you were a startup in a growing business, it probably took more of your effort and time. But how was the process for you? Have you got any sort of share with us what the process was, but also if there's any key learnings or takeaways that you would love to share with people now that you're through it, and you're about to recertify, I'd say, soon.
My key learning is if you find yourself a consultant, it makes your life much easier, and probably shortens the certification process. So the reason why it took me 2 years is I wasn't smart enough to find templates, or maybe at the time there weren't that many templates around.
Yeah.
So I literally had to start everything from scratch. I believe B Corp has now a policy bank you can tap into, and people sharing resources in the B Corp forum and whatnot. When I started this process, there was not much around, and there were certainly no other B Corps that I could tap on the shoulder in my region. I think there were. I could count on one hand how many B Corps were in process when I started becoming obsessed. And then these other B Corps in my region, they are not, they're in other industries and whatnot. So their policies don't necessarily align with mine. And also I'm a tiny, tiny business, so I have to make this work for a small business. And as I mentioned before, my business needs to be kind of recession proof, crisis proof, right? So I still managed to, implement some really good policies, I believe. One policy that I got inspired by Stone & Woods, the brewery here in Byron Bay. They had a return from maternity leave policy. So if you came back from maternity leave within 6 months, they would pay you a bonus. And I thought, that's brilliant. Because if you're not on the tools for, a period of time, because our industry is such a fast-paced environment, you kind of lose touch with the tools and how to build things. So it is actually of benefit to my employees as well as to my company when that people return from maternity leave rather sooner than later. And I figured out the bonus needs to at least cover the daycare costs, which are expensive in Australia, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we actually had someone taking advantage of this policy just at the beginning of the year, and I'm really glad the person came back from maternity leave earlier than she needed to. So I could learn from other B Corps in my region, and now we're much better organized as well. We have like regional meetups and whatnot, and now I'm happily passed on my learnings and my tools to other aspiring B Corps. But at the time, there was not much around. So everything I developed, every single policy I wrote myself and had it checked by a HR consultant. Everything I measured, like I said, I measure in my spreadsheet. And before becoming B Corp, I then became climate neutral certified. So we were the first business in the Northern Rivers to be climate neutral certified. And there was a lot of education necessary to our clients, stakeholders, and general public, what that actually means. Then we became member of 1% for the Planet, because we realized, oh my God, we're spending actually a lot of time working for free and volunteering a lot in the community. But also we could run campaigns for advertising campaigns for not-for-profits through the 1% for the Planet scenario. And we're donating a relatively large percentage too. So that was it was a logical step for us to become climate neutral certified and then member of 1% for the Planet. And then we got approached by Pledge 1%, which is the US equivalent kind of to 1% for the Planet. So we joined that because at the time we had a lot of clients in the US. What else did we do? So we had all these micro steps on our journey to become a B Corp.
And it's like that, isn't it? It's like as you're going through these questions and you see some of the answers, and then you maybe have a couple of conversations with other B Corps, or you see other things going on, you get inspired to take an action because if you do that, you're going to get the impact points, right? So it's sort of, that's what I say all the time. It's like these questions and the answers prompt you to look and maybe change some things, or maybe formalize some things. So you were already doing good. It's just you formalized a lot of the things like 1% for the planet and things like that, which I love. I would just love you to share, because I know you touched upon it, but when you told me this a few months ago when we were sitting in a cafe, it just blew my mind, because I had no idea, like literally no idea. And I think it's important to talk about, because one, it is part of what you offer as your business. And two, I think it's really good for other aspiring B Corps or other purpose-driven businesses or people that just want to do good through business, and knowing these things about the technology that you use, social media posts, email. So can you just share more about, I mean, I'm calling it sort of green tech, but that might not be the right term, but how do you do that yourself as a business, and how do you teach others? What's involved?
So the problem is that the internet currently produces something like 3.8%, 4% of the global carbon emissions, which is rising because we're using more and more data. We're streaming services for music, for video. We're using web. We're constantly on our mobile phones. So web technologies are also being used to, sow discontent, erode privacy, prompt unethical decisions, and in some countries undermine personal freedoms and the well-being of society. We're actually tricked in spending more and more time on the internet. Social media giants design their user experience so we're glued to the screen. So we're, using their services more. So that is a huge problem that we have identified while we were on the B Corp journey, that we need to tackle this. And how can we tackle it? So we can make sure that everything we use to build tech or to host our tech is powered by renewables. So that's a no-brainer. And if you do a Google search on finding a green web host, for example, you see that the number of providers has exploded in the last couple of years. So having your website first and foremost, and all of your applications on a green server or a green data center, I should say, is the first step, right? Okay. So how can you find a green web host? So there's a company called the Green Web Foundations Directory, and they're listing, I think, something like 500 hosting providers around the world that have tangible commitment to using green energy in their data centers, and that's a really good starting point. Sometimes also when you visit websites, you see in the footer on the bottom, that they're powered by a green provider, or you'll just ask people in the B Corp community. So that's a really good starting point. And then we talk about sustainable web design. So sustainable web design is an approach to design websites or web services that puts people and the planet first. So it sounds very much like a B Corp.
Yes,
right?
It does.
So that means it delivers products, digital products and services that respect the principles of the Sustainable Web Manifesto. So if you Google that, you will come to a website where you can actually pledge that you're, you recognize that we need a sustainable internet. And I think there are 6 objectives. One is the services that you provide will be powered by renewable energy. So it's clean, they're efficient, the products and services that you provide use the least amount of energy and material resources possible. And I come back to that when we talk about sustainable web design. You use open source, your products and services will be accessible for others to learn from. Your products and services will not exploit or mislead users in the design or content. This is really interesting when it comes to form designs. What information do you actually need to collect? How are you collecting it? How are you storing it? How are you keeping it secure? When are you releasing it? How are you deleting it? It needs to be regenerative. So the products and services that you provide We support an economy that nourishes people and the planet. And lastly, resilience. The products and services you provide will function in the times and places where people need them most. So these are the principles of the Sustainable Web Manifesto. So when we come back now to sustainable web design, where we mainly use these principles, we can talk about a couple of different ways to tackle them. First and foremost, I must say, most clients don't really care about the sustainability of their web stuff. Aesthetics and affordability come first and foremost, often even SEO. I have rarely seen sustainability being part of a brief in MarTech, marketing, or tech. But for those ones who want to start the conversation, you need to think about, what does the design look like? How can I keep my design nice, clean, and lean? So, you don't need to compromise aesthetics for a lean design. And what I mean with lean design is every time you open a website and a picture is rendered, it pings somewhere server to produce this picture in front of you, right? So the more colors, the more design elements, the more images you load on your website, the more data it takes to deliver that.
Yeah,
right?
Makes sense.
So if you strip that back and have it lean, you are ultimately using less energy. So how can you simplify the design? And that's not only for web design, that also counts for email. Like, do we need to have GIFs and all the animations, or could it be just a simple, text email? It has ultimately an effect. Like I said, 4% of the global carbon emissions are produced by the internet. So we have to start, saving data somewhere.
Yeah. And being aware of it. I think most people aren't even aware. Like, I didn't even know that it was a thing. I was like, what do you mean? So there's that awareness, and then the education, and then you can start to take action from there.
Yeah. So hosting is really low-hanging fruit, very affordable. I don't think it costs anything more to host in a green data center.
I've just done it recently. No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So the design, then, that's something you as the client or a web owner can influence, right? And that then translates into the development. And in a nutshell, sustainable web design or web development means that you're keeping also your code lean and clean. So you're not having endless spaghetti code and 1,000, things that load in the background and a massive back end if you don't actually need it. You just code into the page what it needs to load that page. Yeah. So every web developer and every web designer will contact me after this podcast and say, what do you actually mean? What does that actually mean?
I totally had an image there, because I used to work in IT, and I just thought of all those developers that are like just love coding, and it was always a mess. Like, I used to walk past their screens and be like, what is going on? So they'll probably be freaking out at that, because everything is better to be simple. I love that. Yeah, so that's good. So like web hosting, website, it's just knowing those key things, isn't it? That's awesome. And just lastly, just to sort of wrap up or to come to the end, Sonja, what would you recommend to any business, maybe a small region business like yourself that's sort of 5 years in? What would be the advice you'd give to them about B Corp or becoming a B Corp?
Consumers demand now from brands and companies to take a stance. And we all know we are running out of time. We need to change something now. So if you can use your business as a force for good and apply ethical principles, apply common sense to how you can, save in your business and in your professional line of services, data, energy, and how you can make things better, that helps you to stand out as a unique selling proposition from your competitors, but it also helps the planet and ultimately, all the people that live on it. Yeah. So I think everyone can look at their own business and find something that you can streamline or do better, or in a more ethical way, or use more ethical supply chain, or whatever that is. In my case, as for Drunk Parrots, we have not the luxury to choose all of the global suppliers. Like if you do marketing and people want Facebook and whatnot, well, then this is what we have to do. But when you dig a little bit, the big global players are also committing time, energy, and money and resources to becoming better and recognizing, the effects of climate change. So we can't change the external factors, but we could change a lot in the way we produce and manage, and the way we treat our people and treat our clients, and the way we're helping our local community. I mentioned that we do, an enormous amount of pro bono services in the community. I think this year it's something crazy like 45% of our time we're actually working for free in the community, and helping environmental organizations who cannot afford us, grassroots organizations who were affected by the 2 floods that we had in 2022 or by bushfires. We're helping them, getting their message to the community, helping them with their websites, with their hostings, with, governance, with strategy, whatever we can.
Yeah, you're helping.
But you can only do that if your company is, strong enough and financially viable, so you can actually put purpose before profit. And that's a conscious decision we made, and not everyone has the luxury to do that. But I believe this world would be a better place if more business owners could put purpose before profit.
Absolutely. I love that. And lastly, where can people find you? How do they follow you, get to know you? Let us know.
Well, like you said in the intro, it's a company name you can't forget. It's for Drunk Parrots.
Yes.
I think we're on Facebook, Instagram. We have a website, of course. We're heavily active on LinkedIn. We have a vibrant blog where we share as much as we can. That's where you find us.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sonja. It's been so nice to chat to you and just learn from you and all your wisdom. I could listen to you all day and just all the things you have. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a beautiful day, and thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to I've Got Your Back, the podcast, and our season 1, which has been all about B Corps. I have got a wee gift for you because I really believe this is going to help so many people and so many businesses. So as we know, there's currently 6,500 B Corps certified globally across 161 industries in 89 countries. And this movement is not slowing down. It's gaining momentum and it's in momentum. And I really want to gift you a guide that tells you everything you need to know about becoming a B Corp and how to actually get certified. So make sure you download this guide after listening to the podcast and let me know what you think. Chat soon.